It's 10 o'clock.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Salesforce Shift Left. We'll give a few more seconds for people, minutes for people to join. I'm very excited to have you all here, to have our great speakers, and I'm looking forward to a really great webinar. While we're waiting, feel free to tell us where you are joining us from. We are from Israel, me and Oz. Carlos, you are from the United States, right?
Yes.
How is the weather over there right now?
This is Florida, and it's like in the 50s, really cold for, for Florida.
This is cold,
here.
Huh?
So yeah. Here it's raining, and we're not really used to get rain.
Yeah, we're usually, but in Florida, when it's getting warm, it's getting really, really hot, right?
Yeah, let's hope. But we have a winters as well in Florida. A lot of people don't believe.
A lot of people are coming to Florida for the winter. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it starts on October or just around Thanksgiving or Halloween, and it doesn't stop until spring break, when we start to get warmer. Then the people from the north, they move, they move back to Canada, New York, and stuff.
So before we start the webinar, a few housekeeping rules. The webinar is recorded, and then we will send the recording to all of you after the webinar. Feel free to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A box. Your lines are muted because we want to keep the webinar flowing. I think we have a really exciting and great webinar for you today. I think that it really touches the basic thing that we all want to do, save money. So before we get to the content, let's introduce the speakers. Oz, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Oz Lavi. I am the CTO of Panaya Foresight. Been around the industry of software development for more than 20 years, with the Salesforce ecosystem for the last, I think, 6 years, something like that. Happy to talk about this great topic, which is, I think, is a hidden gem in change management and in change processes. Carlos, over to you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ozzy. Thank you, Arias. Thanks, Panaya, for having me. I see here the description. Ozzy has over 20 years of experience. Well, I'm much younger than Ozzy, so I couldn't say that. But I have been on the IT for pretty much the same time, over 20 years, and on the Salesforce ecosystem for 7 years. And this is where I really feel comfortable here. You're talking to people, bringing people up to speed on the amazing environment that we have with Salesforce, and of course when we can talk about products and solutions like what Panaya has to offer. So thank you very much for having me here today.
Great. So a couple of things before we're starting. Let's talk about the agenda. We started with the understanding of what is shift left. It's a great buzzword. We hear about it from different places and different areas, but what is actually meaning and what is the idea behind it? I think it's a great and simple idea. We will get to it in a second. We'll talk about shift left in Salesforce, okay? How it can be done in Salesforce, what are the values and the benefits that we will get out of it. Carlos will tell from his experience around the different implementation that he faced, and the financial and operational advantages eventually, as Iris mentioned in the beginning. Eventually, we want to do more with less, and this is a very easy way to get to it. And how and the fourth thing is we will introduce how can we proactively shift left and our change management process using change intelligence, and we will see a live demo of that. Without further ado, let me move next. Let's talk what is shift left. Shift left eventually is the idea of taking all the quality measures that we want to take usually after the implementation. This is the human logic, which is saying, when I have this, when I will have it implemented, then I will test it, validate its performance, check everything. And what we're trying to do in shift left is trying to get it earlier in the process, pushing it left in the process to the early stages, into the planning, into the design, and even to the implementation in several places. The idea behind it is that if we will be able to catch a logical bug or a performance issue earlier in the planning board, we saved a lot of time and a lot of headache. It just requires us to think about it a bit earlier in the process, and then we can save it facing it later on. I'm sure all of you know that if we will face performance issues, wrong implementation, wrong decision later on in the process, it will cost us much more to fix it if we will fix it at all. So shift left actually helps the teams to anticipate the changes that are coming, to understand what they need to do to get the overall picture and do it in the right way first time. So what are the key elements then when we're talking in shift left? I'm talking here in general, which first is the early testing. Some people say test the design, test the definition. So in many cases, but the more accurate known way is unit testing. As part of the implementation, introduce your test, the unit test. Salesforce enforce you when you're writing code to add Apex test classes, flow test, things like that. Also in the traditional development, unit testing is a crucial part of it, that allowing us that when we deliver, we already tested what we deliver. Okay, and of course, this is leading also to a collaborative approach. In many cases, you know, the business analyst, which is coming in the planning and the definition phase, is not always having good, let's say, coordination with the QA team. If we're shifting left and the QA team are getting involved earlier in the process, even in the planning phase, then we are getting a better collaboration, a better understanding of what we're trying to achieve. And this has an immediate impact on the delivery, on its quality and its effectiveness. Of course, shift left come traditionally with the continuous delivery, continuous integration. Eventually, when we're introducing continuous integration, the idea is that if we're performing a change and we cover it with test, then it can go directly, test immediately, and move directly to the next phases of the implementation process, whether it's all the way up till production or continuous integration up to the integration environment. So shift left is actually the idea of building the test, making sure as early as possible that we have the quality that we want as part of the implementation. Okay. If we look on the benefits of all the things that we just discussed, so first, we're reducing cost. Why we're reducing cost? Catching things earlier in the process, we discussed it. It's allowing us to save a lot of time, a lot of money. We're getting into higher efficiency, and I must say also better well-being for our implementation team, because we're not always facing bugs and issues and fixing and performance. We're just delivering business value, and of course, it will leading to higher quality and a competitive edge over our competitors. So this is in general all the benefits together that shift left is bringing into the process, and it's not that complicated to implement. Okay, just attention earlier in the process, thinking what we are planning to do, thinking upfront on all the things, getting all the information that I need as early as possible in the process to validate that we will have what we need eventually. Okay, whether it's in performance, whether it's in quality and the business outcome, whether it's the business requirement is the right business requirement. Does it make sense? All those things are crucial as part of it. Okay, so let's talk about shift left in Salesforce. Carlos, share some of your knowledge.
Well, thanks. I mean, shift left is something that we discuss all the time, and is the approach that you will not just is limited to Salesforce or IT or anything. Is a matter of a process, right? Exactly. I don't think any car company, they go in there and they design a car today and tomorrow they put on the market. They go and pretty much, they do tests, right? Early on tests, they have to do all the tests about performance, security, comfort, a lot of other stuff. So the shift left is pretty much something that you need to do no matter what, in what kind of system that you are working in, have to get your stakeholders. So when you talk about collaborative planning and design, yeah, I mean, you have to get your end users, the people that are going to actually benefit, because at the end of the day, working in IT, you pretty much are providing a service to your end users, right? They are the buyers. A lot of times the IT people, they can make a decision, they can write the check for products or service, but the stakeholders, the end users, they are the ones that say, hey, yes, this thing, instead to take like 3 months, it took like 45 days or a month because of the implementation was done on time, reduced costs with with the speed. So shift left is pretty much a tool or a process that would allow you, anybody in just any kind of IT, we talk specifically here about Salesforce. So when we talk about pre-development risk assessment, is finding out what exactly your requirements. If somebody comes to you and I say, Carlos, I need to change Social Security, something that people probably don't know worldwide. Social Security here in the United States is a unique idea. Well, let's say that you say, hey, I have to change my credit card account number. Okay, that's a field that has like probably 15 bytes in there. And credit card is something that you use all over the world. If you have that business requirement, where exactly that you're going to affect, right? You don't know. You might remember, so yeah, I did a flow or I did a validation rule, but you don't know that. So if you're going to rely on just going for what's in your mind, and keep in mind, we are humans. It's not always you have the documentation. This is going to be the effect here. So the risk assessment is pretty much to find out, what's the domino effect. If I change something here, what's going to happen, the repercussion throughout your organization. Feedback loops is exactly the constant process of, interaction, between the development and end users. Is this look better? Is this look better? Is this look better? Refine. So that at the end of the day, the product that got in there, it got a better quality because you had a better understanding what the end users had. So how often it happens that you develop something, when you start to test, the end users say, oh, this is not what I did or what I needed. So the feedback, the loops here is pretty important. And of course, predict changing outcomes. If you have most of information up front when you are doing your interviews, your requirements, you can pretty much have the big picture, what's the next phase in there. Of course, Oz is probably going to mention that later on. When you say predicting change outcomes, we're talking here pretty much not just on the beginning when you're doing the shift left, but using the data that you have in there, a little AI in there with the change intelligence platform. You say, okay, this is what might happen here if I change this credit card account number here. Make sense, Ozzy? Agree?
I totally agree.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so why exactly the shift left matters? We mentioned increased quality. Is the process, the feedback loop. You refine your requirements. Better product in there. Increase value. As I just mentioned, this gives users exactly what they need, because you don't want to spend the time and say, oh, how many times you drove a car for 45 minutes just to get to a restaurant and find out that the restaurant does not have any seats. There's no, you couldn't make a reservation, so just waste 45 minutes. So if you call ahead, you make a reservation, you have a better chances to get in there and have a seat. So you give exactly what they need, increase the value. Reducing costs. I mean, a lot of time people don't realize, but when you're reducing costs, is the cost of the humans, people doing the work. You have a QA people, you have a testers, you have a developers, you have admins, you have our architects, and of course, reducing risk. What if you have a major implementation? Right now, here, not just in US, but worldwide, you have pretty much what was called the Black Friday. Can you imagine if on the weekend of Black Friday, you decide to do an implementation right on the night before and things go wrong? You know, so having an early adoption in there or early the shift left in there, you can definitely reduce your risk as well, because as it says here, you prevent bugs and errors because early on. Good?
Okay. Good.
Oh, okay. So this is, I really like this one here because people probably don't realize, but in IT, no matter what the platform, I mean, maintenance is what you really drive your costs in there. I mean, yeah, you do design, implementation, testing, but what we always do most of our times is not to develop something new, is to maintain. And when we talk about maintenance in there, and that's pretty much what, you know, the good numbers that we got here from IBM, 6 times higher, you know, the cost, you know, if you don't have the proper approach right in the beginning, you know. So the cost to fix an error found after product release is then 4 or 5 times. Again, you know, early detection, early quality controls, faster development, better quality, cost reduction, happy end users. For me, it sounds very simple.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, you know, something that it's reminding me, you know, when we talk about software development, we think about there is some kind of something that we think that we can touch everything. Okay, in a software, I can go into the code or to the implementation and change whatever I need, and this give us the implementers and the developers a very big freedom of doing changes. But then it's also getting us less responsible in many ways, because we can change it later, we can fix it later. We want to move fast. If we are building a house, you know, we are not going to stop to let's put the cement first and then we'll see what we do with it, because changing it back or fixing something in the electricity inside it can be very problematic in many cases. So we need to think upfront as much as possible and plan ahead as we can. And this is exactly, I think, relates to the idea of shift left. You know, when we are building a house, we are doing a shift left. We're doing a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, a lot of errors and what ifs that we can think of before we are going and taking a first implementation step.
Exactly. I like the analogy of the house. You don't build the roof first. You build the foundation.
Exactly.
Well, this is exactly what I think. You know, Panaya is a game changer here, because right there early on you have when we start to talk about the plan and design. You know, I mean, one analogy that I have is today is what, December 7th. Okay, let's see that this next weekend you getting married. That's your implementation in production. Okay, so if this weekend is your wedding, guess what? What was your shift left? 6 months ago, a year ago, when you first went on a date and you start to talk about it.
A crucial part, I think, in life. Shifting left in marriage is a crucial part. I agree with you, Carlos, on that.
You know, so early on, you know, hey, does she like sushi? Does she like soccer? Does he like, you know, soap operas, you know, walkings in the park? He has all of these things that you have on a relationship that you have to detect early on. Oh, I love to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym. My partner hates, is this going to work or not? So as I said, if this weekend is your wedding, that's your implementation, the last phase here, the monitor and analyze, your shift left was way behind. You don't meet somebody on the street, or some people do. You don't meet somebody in the street and you say, hey, let's get married. So the shift left is pretty much early detection, early engagement of all the pieces on your team.
I will take this recommendation on on marriage, because I think if you catch a bug early in the relationship, you know, eventually all of us know that it can be very, very bad later on. Totally agree.
Yep. Tips for success. Yeah, again, I mean, we cannot emphasize this, to invest early, to plan and, talk, communications, again, if it's a couple, you have a communication. So in your line of work, early detection, talk to your end users. What exactly do you need? Make sure that you understand, you read between the lines. We are humans, and people normally have a tendency to hold information, and not to share everything that they know that really affects them. Know your pet, know exactly where you are and what you're trying to accomplish. As I mentioned before, we are humans, and a lot of times end users, they're gonna think white, they're gonna tell you gray, and you're gonna understand black. So you get lost in the communications in there because the requirements are not properly done. So this has to be like a two-way communication, like we're talking here. So to make sure that every time that you talk to your end users or anybody involved in the process, you make documentations, you make we're gonna go to the next step because we both agree that this is what needs to be done, and never delay. Once you set up the deployment date, I mean, it's immovable. Yeah, it's immovable. It is the right word. Well, I like to say that yes, to make sure that people, of course, if you have to change something for a Friday to Sunday, you do it, but the business cannot stop. Remember the analogy that I made before about Black Friday. You cannot say, okay, let me do the implementation on Cyber Monday. How many millions of dollars you have already lost if you haven't done that? So, you have to do the proper time, and as I said several times, and, measure. Here we go. Okay. Measure twice and everything. Okay. And cut once. Make sure that before you take to the next steps, you have a cover your track so that everybody's comfortable going to the next phase. So that's pretty much the basics of a shift left. Early planning, early approach in there, and then reap the benefits.
Thanks,
Back
Carlo,
to you,
for this visualization. It's a very accurate visualization of the story of shift left. Okay, so let's talk about shift left and change intelligence for a second. So I understand that when we're talking about shift left, we want to know as much as possible and test as much as possible earlier in the process, in the planning and in design phase. And what the change intelligence supports us is with the ability to understand exactly what is going on inside our org earlier in the process, in the planning and the design phase, and also in the implementation phase. And we can see here a quote of a review about change intelligence that was done by InVisual. So the idea of change intelligence is to bring you as much value as you need, all the value that you need in order to take the right decision and take the right measures, okay, to do the right implementation in the fast and safest way possible. Okay, so I want to use this illustration, for example, and we in many cases, business analysts have a conception of what is happening inside the organization, what is the actual implementation, how it is built, and they build the requirements based on that. They have a perceived understanding of how the org is actually built in this rectangle, okay, and they want some kind of an extension for this rectangle, and this is what they expect of the outcome to be. And then it's coming to the implementation team that need to do the real work, and everybody who worked in it, I'm sure, faced something from one side or the other. And the world is different than what was perceived by the business analyst. The world is round. Our org is more round than it is expected. So Tim is a good guy. He wants to deliver what he was asked for. So he's just building something like that. And this is the received outcome, which is not exactly what was expected. But if we had a good collaboration and a good information about how the org is actually built, when Katie has defined the requirement and the business request, okay, then she will know that our organization is round and the business process is actually round and not a rectangle. So she will say, okay, this is the required solution that I need for my business. And this is what team would implement because everything will be based on the same knowledge, based on the same information of the actual implementation that exists inside the org. And this is my goal, you know, with change intelligence, to bring this information of understanding what is actually happening inside my organization, so we will take the right decision later on in the process. And as we saw earlier, as Carlos mentioned, you know, things that will cost us, let's say $1 in the planning and in the design phase can cost us $100 later on after implementation and production. Okay, so this is in general how we can control the risk and taking the right measures earlier in the process. And that the area of definition and planning is usually tricky, because if it will be done good and accurate, it can bring much faster implementation and safer and higher quality of the implementation, because everything is built on top of the other. So just think about extending this received outcome, how complex it will be and changes it will require just to see the received outcome of the circles. Okay, so let me show you exactly how we are bringing value with foresight inside on the existing board. So 1 second, let me just share my other screen. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm now in the Panaya Foresight application. Okay, the Panaya Foresight application, as we said, is a change intelligence. What we are doing, we're basically taking the entire metadata of the organization, analyze it in our servers, and providing you with the insights and information that you need when you're performing a change, so you know the actual structure of your org. So in this case, I wanted to do a change to the opportunity stage, to the opportunity process. I want to change the opportunity stage to change some of the pick list value of the opportunity stage, and I want to understand exactly what is the ripple effect of this opportunity stage field. So I will click on the analyze of the opportunity stage field. And now what's happening in the background, we are getting the analysis of the opportunity stage field, getting all the dependencies of the opportunity stage field, and going to surface you in a graphical way. So you will be able to see it. So we see it here. Okay, so this is all the places that are using the opportunity stage field. Okay, we can more than that see, you know, in some of them, if they are use it as in a flow, for example. I'm looking now on a flow, and in this flow, in this field, the opportunities field is actually updated in this specific element in the flow. So it's in the creation record. So this is one example of the impact of this field, and I don't need to go through the entire flows and understand which one of them is changing and trying to search and find. And usually, you know, many implementers or admins look and search through the organization, and they do it. So some people do it, let's say, in 80%. Some people are doing it in 90%. It's very hard to get to the 100% that the tool can provide you, and usually the bugs happen in the latter 10% of the implementation. So this is one example on a flow and where it is happening. We can take another example of an Apex class. So in this Apex class, you know, I can go on and see exactly where within the source code, this is the source code of the Apex class, and I can see that here is a reference to the stage name. Okay, so if I will do some kind of a change to the closed one, I better take care of it here as well. I don't want to miss it. And so this is one aspect. And if I'm not very good in reading code, in many cases when business analysts looking on the implementation want to take the right decision, they're not always aware of what is the implementation is actually doing. So we now have a Gen AI-based solution to provide with an explanation of what this class is actually doing. Okay, so you will be able to understand the context and get the full picture of what is the actual implementation of the business process and what is the required change that I need to do. Do I need to do change in this Apex class? Yes or no? This is a good question. Of course, eventually all this information, I can take the decision, go and open it in Salesforce and see it, continue it from there. all this information can also be sliced and diced via the different filters by types or by different impact types, packages, namespaces, and much more, and also can be viewed as a list view of all this information in a very simple list so that I can go and review it one by one as I need it. So again, this tool help the admins, help the business analyst, help the architect to understand what is the actual implementation that exists in my organization. And once we understand the actual implementation that exists today, then we can take the right decision and the right definition to write what we want to change. Okay, and not by assumption that we have some kind of a picture in our head of how things are actually built, and we may forget some things or may think the things are built in a different way that we are expecting it to be. Okay, so this is regarding the impact analysis. Panaya Foresight also come with a very easy free text search capability that I will be able to show you also here. I will do some kind of a search string to see where this string of call to order actually appear inside my my implementation. I can see different places like Apex classes that have in its comment the call to order, or if I have here a label of an error that the call to order had an error. So in this example, if I get this error from a case of one of my user, just putting it here, or I can directly find the root cause and where it is coming from and go and investigate and get the full understanding of what is actually happening in this flow with this thing. Of course, I can also perform a 360 analysis on that and get the full dependency of this flow. So I think I will pause here with the demo. And Carlos, any comments, questions you want to raise?
As I said, this is, I have seen it, but when you see a live like this, it makes me really happy. Just the portion in there that you have on the right of the screen, I think that was your AI in there writing the text in there. I mean, that is empowering. Your BAs. I mean, nowadays everybody talks about BAs, how important it is to have a BA in there, and so yeah, I really like it. I mean, that is what people need to do a proper shift left. Early detection, early communications, better quality, less tests. Short time, like a go-to-market, or time to production. If you took you, as I mentioned before, if you took you 3 months to do something, and now you're doing 45 days, there's some KPIs in there. Shorter deployments, deploy as often as you can, and you reduce your costs and you increase happiness among your end users. So I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
I remember there is a phrase saying, a smart guy don't get into problems, a clever guy know how to get out of them.
Yep.
So a smart guy will use change intelligence to get and not face all the bugs and issues later on in the process that he will know how to solve, but let's avoid them upfront. That's much better.
Yeah, looks like there is a Q&A here. Let's see, somebody asked something here.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not a question, and thank you for bringing it up. We have someone who says, I can recommend trying your software. It does basically what I often do by hand, and manual inspection of all these relations is a high expenditure of energy. And Panaya is usable for seniors, mid-years, and less technical roles. So thank you so much for saying that.
It's very common. It reminds me of something, Iris, I must mention. One of the key things that we see is that Panaya gives some kind of a superpower to admins or architects that are coming into a new org. Whether it's senior or mid-year or junior, everybody, when you're starting in a new place, in a new org, you don't know how things are actually built there. Every org is built differently. So this gives you some kind of an accelerator to get into understand your org and be independent inside your org. You don't need to ask the people near you what was the meaning, where these things are built, how it is built, what's happening here, what should I look for. You will have all the picture in your hands, and yeah, you will have smarter questions to ask your colleagues around that. So this is a very cool tool to onboarding on a new org.
This is so true. So we have another question. Can you show an example of using an error in Salesforce and using Panaya to conduct a root cause analysis?
Okay, let me try to say take something like that. Okay, I will jump back. Let's.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. You know, there is a way to do things. I think I will let me just jump. I don't want that. It will take me a long time to open it now. But let's say I'm going to the login screen, okay, of Salesforce. Let me try to log in quickly to one of the environments. Thank you for this question. This is good for the demo. I'm sorry I'm not having it immediately here, but let me try to show something which is quite similar. We'll go to the setup, for example. And basically the ability to perform a quick search, for example, on everything that we see here. Okay, it's very easy. You know, and now I'm using the Panaya Home extension. I will take this this API name account. Okay, and let's say I want to search, this is the string or this is the error message that we have, just by using a right click and search it with Panaya. Will give me immediately all the places that accounts appears in. Okay, so this is a very quick and easy way from every string that appears an error message in the screen or anything that appears here. So I can take it, I can add a space and do another search if I want to fine tune the search and get the better results around that and not get the account IDs and things like that. And this can give me a very quick and easy way to find all the places. So I have here all the Apex classes, the test classes, triggers, or components, and much more, and all the components that we are actually covering, and it's a very long list of things. So just and then I can of course fine tune the you know the search as I need. Okay, let's take it like this.
Ozzy, just to complement what you're doing here, I mean, I really like the question, okay, from Jake, but let's, normally there's two kind of messages in there, okay, using error. There's the system generated, and that is probably something that I don't think you could find out because that's not part of your metadata, right? But anything that was created by, if you have an Apex class or you have a flow, or you have a validation rule, you have anything like that that you created a part of your metadata, yes, the Panaya will show you, as you already put in here. But if it's a system, if it is a Salesforce system generated message, then you don't have control of that because you don't have access to that kind of message.
Thank you for this clarification. That's accurate.
Right. So, yeah. Jake, I hope you see that. You know, anything that is created by your metadata, yeah, Panaya will show you in there. You know, that's why it's important to have anytime that you create anything in Salesforce or any other platform, have documentation. You know, what is this field? You know, if you can put on the field description or flow description or validation rule or whatever in there, you put a proper description in there. You know, and even include the same message that you're going to get as an error message in there. You know, it makes much easier to do this impact analysis here.
And just to let you know, I shared in the chat box, we have YouTube channel where we share examples of how you can use Panaya in various use cases. One of them is exactly root cause analysis, both for, I think that we have an example for CPQ and a general example. So feel free to visit the Academy. We keep adding videos to simple use cases and more complicated use cases. I think you will find a lot of things there that can help you, whether you are using Panaya or not, that can help you with your daily tasks. So just use it. So does anyone else have another question? If not, then we will end the webinar. We will share the recording, as I said in the beginning. And feel free to ask us if you come up with another question. You have the information here if you want to book a demo and see. We will make sure the demo is personalized exactly for your need, and we can show you exactly what kind of insights we can usable insights that you can use immediately on your org. So feel free to reach out to us, questions, demo, whatever you have in mind. And till then, Oz, Carlos, thank you so much for this great webinar. Until next time, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, Carlos.
Okay.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.